I'm currently standing in what was once the beautiful little town of Concal here in California. And just across the ridge is Polgar, where the campfire started exactly 1 month ago today. Up the road just a little way, there's a roadblock because PG&E have begun their investigations to see if they are indeed responsible for the campfire. As I walked the ridges of this little town, I could see why the fire traveled so quickly. The winds here are ferocious. On November 8, 2018, those winds fueled a fire that tore through the little town of Concal, destroying most of it on its destructive path through the valley, across to Paradise, Magalia, and the lower ridge into Honey Run Road near Chico. Butte County has been devastated in a way that we as locals could never have even thought imaginable. We're used to fires here, but we were never prepared for something as ferocious as this.
This is up on the top of Concal after the dirt. Got hit by some like 70-mile-an-hour winds. It's real close to us. I'm getting out of here. There's fire everywhere. Okay, so I just want to say I'm stuck in here. We can't get out. Concal Road. And we're here. My truck has 7 dogs and Aaron in it with Seth in the back with his broken arm.
On November 8th, I woke up about 7 o'clock in the morning, and I have scanners going so I can listen to things that are happening around the community, and I heard scanner traffic about a possible large fire happening, and I happened to walk outside from my front door and I could see the big cloud of smoke coming from the mountain area towards Paradise.
The fire-savvy residents of Paradise had very little idea of what was about to happen as the fire tore through the canyon at an amazing 80 acres per minute.
Wow, it's like snow. Look at that.
It was early, just shortly after sunrise, and Mary stepped outside onto the back deck and called me and said, "Come look at this beautiful sunrise." And then I looked up, and here are these roiling clouds of just dark smoke, and I suddenly realized the whole day is getting darker.
Okay, we just got confirmation that Paradise is burning now. So we're just gonna wait it out here with the dogs, and if the wind changes, we're gonna get out of here. So stand by.
I didn't see the smoke right away, but on my way to work, I drove down Merrill Lane in Paradise, and I took a picture of the fire. I used to fight fires, so I knew what was about to happen.
Here's the pliers. I gotta go check on this guy. He probably is still in bed. Joan, are you okay? His car's gone. His car's gone, right? It's Steve. We gotta evacuate. Yeah, everyone's gone in the park. There's nobody left. There's no power. What do you need? Do you need any meds? You gonna make it through the day without them? If so, let's go, because you don't have time. I'm sorry. You're gonna sit in the back. I got somebody else in the front. Where is Claudette?
She's at her house.
Does she drive?
Well, she don't have a driver's license.
I can't even get out of the park.
Oh, no.
Look at the park. I wasn't kidding when I said we had to go. Yeah, these people can't even get out.
Meanwhile, on the other end of town, down on Pence Road, the Feather River Hospital is being evacuated.
What I was doing was what I was directed to do, which was going wing to wing where we house patients and making sure every wing was clear.
And everybody's scrambling. We have patients and family members leaving the building. People like me are running to get wheelchairs and bring them and get it to the patients. We're putting patients that are non-ambulatory in the wheelchairs, and we're getting everybody to the ER and out to where the ambulance drops off and picks up patients.
The Feather River Hospital wasn't the only medical facility being evacuated. Jessica Johnson, the administrator of Heritage Skilled Nursing, made the difficult decision early on to evacuate the facility.
We had all the residents kind of in their wheelchairs at the front, which would be in between those two pillars, and they were all sitting there waiting to go.
This was the entryway.
Yeah. So at a certain point, we're all there. We had someone in that gridlock traffic pull in, tell us the fire is only 150 yards away. You got to get the residents and get them out. We didn't have emergency personnel come help us. It was me calling in a lot of favors.
You made a decision to let your children go with someone else in a time of crisis to be able to take care of the residents.
Yeah. And at least get them out if things went awry. Yeah.
What made you make that decision?
Because I couldn't leave the residents. It wasn't even something that would cross my mind, is to leave people that needed, I'm supposed to be the leader here. I can't even imagine leaving.
Robert and Manakali operate 3 intermediate care facilities for the profoundly disabled, all of which are also quadriplegic.
Most all of our clients are quadriplegic, and so we had to put them into the back of seats of the cars of the staff and then load the wheelchairs into a truck, and they put the clients in the cars, and as they started up the road there was a roadblock, and the people at the roadblock were excited. They told them, no, you can't come through the roadblock. Let's get out of the cars and get the clients back in their wheelchair, because we had to walk out of there. There was no way that a car could pass. There was just gridlock out there, and there was no way that our car was going to go anywhere.
Hospital was on fire. 42 and myself were heading up Pinch Road. I think this
Butte County Fire consists of all volunteers. There's approximately 180 volunteers in the unit. We're a combination fire department with CAL FIRE. Together, the folks here with me today were amongst the many that were on the fire. There was approximately 70 volunteers that responded to this incident. Out of the 70 volunteers that responded, we put in about 6,000 hours on the fire. A lot of people, 16 volunteers, lost their houses, and there were another 2 or 3 that had damage to their properties. So it was a very significant part for us as well.
While both the volunteer firefighters and CAL FIRE continue to be deployed to save property and lives, the people of the community also bravely continue to join in the rescue efforts.
I've got 4 residents in my truck. Go! Come on! Go this way, go that way.
Oh my God!
I proceeded to the front of the park where there was about 40 to 50 cars that were backed up. They weren't able to get out of the park that way. This is Apple Tree Village. Everyone's stuck. Nobody can get out. Took my work truck, parked it in the middle of the road, let the lady in front of the line know that she would be getting out soon. Started getting residents down one lane of Clark Road outside the park. When that lane filled up, I did have to let residents know that they should start filling up the next lane. Once I got those 40 to 50 cars out of the front of the park, I came back in, kicking doors in.
That mobile on fire?
Yeah.
Looks like it. Oh my God!
I, at that point, went back to the side of the park where I had to try to find a way out the back because a fire started in the front of the park at that time at about 8:30. We couldn't get out the front of the park at that point. The park is now caught fire. We've got a small fire here, a small fire there, and a fire up over the mobile. This resident here at 8:45 was smoking a cigar like it was a normal day. Said he wasn't going anywhere. Betty, get in your car and go, please. I'm gonna take my work truck and I'm gonna plow through the fence so we can get out of the park. I just gotta figure out where I'm gonna do that at. Yeah, I'm gonna plow this fence and see if I can get out because there's a fire right here. I know. So will you wait right there? Can you be my contact? Yeah. I'm gonna see if I can plow through this fence. This is where we drove through. Here's our tire tracks of the truck. There was a small stump here where we were hitting. You want to put it? Do you think you can go through there if I got the fence down?
Close, but you'll be all right.
Once this fence was removed, we were able to drive down here and get out the park this way. Dude, this is not good.
So I maneuvered my vehicle across the street, parked, and started running door to door to get people's attention and get them out of there. All but one were not aware of what was going on. They weren't aware of the fire coming or being close. When I knocked on their doors, they were shocked. They didn't know whether to believe me until they walked outside of their door and looked out and seen the conditions and seen what was happening. My vehicle had broke down while I was in the middle of this fire. And the only thing that I can do while helping others get out and helping law enforcement get others out was to drive my vehicle in reverse all the way through town.
Back out of here, guys. We're in gridlock right now. We're making what we did, the police officer and I, we got everybody in the area that we was at turned around facing our direction. And I took up the left lane, which is the southbound lane, and backed up, acting as a pilot car to get everybody moving the same direction in 2 lanes.
We were surrounded by fire. There was fire jumping the road in front of us. There were power lines that were falling and arcing and sparking out on the ground. There was a call that came across the scanner that there was a school bus that was coming up Clark Road, and they were trying to make way for the bus. It was occupied with senior citizens, and with the amount of traffic that was there, it was hard to get that bus to move very far, very fast. I approached the bus and told the bus driver that law enforcement is advising people to leave their cars and run, or to shelter in place, and that he would not make it very much further because the cars are abandoned on the road. His choices were to either use the bus to push away through the cars or to abandon the bus. The bus driver chose to evacuate the bus, and get people on foot down the Skyway to the next available rides and transportation that they could.
So these elderly people are walking down the middle of a burning fire?
Yes. It was hard to tell time just because of everything going on and the thoughts rolling through your mind. And I remember looking at the clock at about 9:45 while all this was going on, and it felt like it was midnight, and I couldn't tell just at the glance of the clock if it was 9:45 a.m. or 9:45 p.m. At that point, there was law enforcement walking on foot or running down the center of the vehicles, telling everybody to abandon their vehicles and run or shelter in place. The fire was approaching us. It was very close. It was completely surrounding us. It was on all 4 sides of us. There were people still in their vehicles, families, moms with kids, babies, all panicking. And all I could do was try to reassure them that we would get out of there soon. Did I think I was going to make it out of the fire? Absolutely not. I had at one point lost hope. I had called my wife and gave her my final call that I probably wasn't going to make it home.
It's all the way around us.
Meanwhile, back at Feather River Hospital, the evacuation of the patients is complete, but the employees have yet to leave the hospital.
How did we get circled?
The staff put themselves in a perilous position. They now have to fight their own way through the fire.
I was thinking of my family. I have a 10-month-old son at home. With the fire department telling everybody and screaming very loudly, it's time for everybody to go, not just you, not just the patients. We all got to get out of here now.
Eventually, we were able to get going ourselves. The patients were out. Now the employees were able to leave, and that is where everything got a little congested because everybody was in the parking lot. We're waiting to get out on Pence Road because we're told that we can go northbound of Pence and get over onto Clark and head out. And they asked us if you can get to Enloe, come down to Enloe and come help. That was the last thing that we knew, that if you get out of here, like, come meet here.
Down Sparks, this one's lighting up right now. People can't get out. We're supposed to get down to Enloe to go help.
I was in the parking lot waiting my turn with a lot of others trying to get out just onto Pence. And the wind was picking up and it was twirling sparks and smoke around us. And I tried finding an N95 mask before getting out of the hospital, but those were all gone already. And while we're waiting to get on Pence, there was bushes and trees lighting up on fire around us, and at some point I had a man jump into my vehicle and he's like, well, let's go, and I couldn't move. We're all stuck in traffic and his vehicle was like really close to that fire, and I couldn't leave myself, and so we kind of just tried to wait it out. And
So this man that jumped into your vehicle, you didn't know who he was, and why did he jump into your vehicle?
I think he was worried about his vehicle catching because he was really close to the flames, and so he was just pretty much ditching that ride and catching the next.
I'm about to drive through this fire under the direction of a sheriff who rolled up and said, you guys do what you want.
I was, for the first time, starting to come to the realization that this is not something that I might overcome.
What I want to do is get out of this fire that I'm driving through.
I was actually FaceTiming with my fiance's aunt and uncle, who had contacted me and had went to my home to wake my fiance. I was FaceTiming with her, and I was saying goodbye to her, and she put my son on the phone. And you see his face smile, and I realized my 10-month-old son may never know me, and he didn't know what was happening. That was the first time I was really, really setting in that I'm probably going to die in this situation.
Our brave and self-sacrificing firefighters of Butte County continue to fight the battle on all fronts.
People were used to the fire coming not as fast and just down one side, so they thought they could stay. And we had to let them know, no, it was coming down both sides, and it was coming really fast. They had to leave, and they had to leave right away.
It was black, it was very windy. The amber cast was, once the fire front came, it got windier than it was before, and the embers in the fire was shooting straight across. I thought my engine was going to catch fire. It was blowing up into the air ducts. I was spraying it down. Well, the ponderosa pine trees up there, some like 80 feet. But when the flames hit, consumed the ponderosa pine trees, those flames of 200 feet, and the wind was pushing the flames sideways. It would go up, and the wind would push it just straight over. And it was just like a dancing devil, just consuming everything. And when the ponderosa pine tree would go up, it would throw embers, and the wind would take the embers and throw it ahead of the fire. And now we got spot fires ahead of the fire, and that's why the fire grew so quick, because the amber cast. It was just the wind was taking the embers miles and miles away and just dropping them. And then we had fire ahead of the fire front.
Yeah. We now got another crown run coming up the hill here.
We did have multiple medical emergencies. A gentleman came in with second and third degree burns on his hands, his arms, his face. People with difficulty breathing. And the problem we were running into is there's no other resources. There's no ambulances. Everyone's trying to get out to Chico to try to get out of Paradise. This was our backyard for a lot of us. We have friends, family, co-workers that are all losing houses. I've never felt a duty to act more than with this fire that's in our backyard. And this is the time to try and save what you can, protect who you can, and just make a difference wherever you can.
While the firefighters bravely fight on, individual families are still trying to escape the fury of the fire.
All of a sudden, we were in an inferno. And I'll never forget the sounds of either transformers exploding and the rapid inferno as we're going to, and it reminded me of going through a circle of fire, because it was exactly like that. Things in my car were so hot. I turned the air conditioning on. I looked and my face was red. I was perspiring, and then I put my hand on the window, and all of a sudden it almost burned my hand. And that's when I said, God, protect us. Put a shield around us and protect us. And I looked over in where the dog was, Buster, and he was just shaking like that. Well, I was so intense on driving because all of these telephone poles with wires were going up like incinerators, falling just 3 feet from my car, so I had to literally move my car over on the shoulder to miss all of that from falling on the car.
Traffic was moving so slowly, maybe 100 feet every 5 minutes, with some vehicles squeezing in different directions, going behind us, trying to escape through side roads.
Our oldest just went straight out of town to the meeting place we had designated. I did not hear from him at all. Our second son, who was driving the van that he ended up pushing into the center of a church parking lot, at that point there was 30 seconds of cell service. So he texted me, Mommy, I've left the van. I told him to run to a church on Elliott.
Yes, Elliott.
And I said, Daddy's waiting for you. Run to Daddy. He's in the parking lot. And then we lost contact again.
I told my wife, go on and take Sarah and the cats to safety, just drive on. I will wait for Andrew. I did not see my son running towards me. I had no idea if he was to be picked up by a stranger, if he was somehow stranded and in peril. I had no idea. And one thought that crossed my mind was, do I just leave? I knew I couldn't. 15 minutes of waiting. He'd made it. And my son had made the decision to run from the church up Nunnally, and found the gate to the cemetery had been blocked. He climbed or jumped over it and made his way across the cemetery, hoping to find either his mother or me.
You saw him coming towards you?
Yes.
What was that moment like?
It was very relieving. Very pleased to see him.
After Jessica Johnson made sure that every last resident of the skilled nursing facility was safe and on their way out of Paradise, she herself began to make the treacherous journey to escape the fire. Jessica's one goal now was to get to her children, who she had sent on safely with her sister prior to the evacuation of the skilled nursing facility.
Everyone after I got out on foot and went down, just a few minutes later, this whole area got asked to leave and hunker in place. So I know that the people that were in all of these vehicles were asked to go, at least for my friend, was asked to go and hunker in the antique shop right there on Wagstaff.
And instead you're running down
Yeah, I
on
was
foot.
running down Skyway on foot while it was on fire on the one side, just to avoid being trapped in all of this. And then...
So, basically, if she had have hunkered down in her car, Jessica wouldn't be standing here right now today. So. That's Jessica's seat right there.
I was in the passenger seat.
Yeah, right there. So, Jessica made a lot of really smart, fast decisions on November 8th that saved many, many lives from this horrible destruction.
With the help of fire and police personnel, Mana Kali and her staff escorted all of their residents safely out of the fire.
And get the clients back in their wheelchair because we had to walk out of there. There was no way that a car could pass. There was just gridlock out there, and there was no way that our car was going to go anywhere. So they put everyone in their wheelchairs and started up the road. And a fireman saw them and said, "No, you can't do that." So the firemen just came back and threw the clients back into the car and told them to go, follow us. So they followed them through several roadblocks and put them in line a little further down on Skyway. But as they were trying to get out of town, very slowly, the fire just started enveloping them, and they were afraid. They didn't know what to do, and even at some point it was, do we stay in the car and do we burn or with our clients, or do we get out and run? And thankfully they felt like that wasn't their impression as they went down, as they were praying. I was praying for them, trying to get to them, but we couldn't get to them. Those group of people finally safely made it after 3 hours going down to Chico. And we all, on the way down, we got calls from people who said, this place here said, we have a day program. Would you like to bring all your clients here? And we just felt like that was just out of the blue. That was something that God had impressed these people with, because we had tried to get a hold of our evacuation center and they weren't answering their phone, and we didn't know what we were going to do with our individuals.
Having safely escaped the inferno, some people like Bobby O'Reilly returned into the flames to come to the rescue of those who were trapped inside of Paradise and Magalia.
So after I leave Paradise and I get back to Oroville, I get in a bus, a friend's bus, and I drive back to Paradise with a long line of Beeline buses that were up there.
While the fire's still going?
Yes.
What was your intention?
To get as many people out of there as we could. The reason I chose to do that is, again, I was listening to the radios. There were deputies and fire personnel coming across the radios stating they had 20, 30, up to 60 individuals with no way out. They had wheelchair bound individuals. They needed wheelchair accessibility buses, and the responses that they were getting where there was no way for them to get there. So what we ended up doing is we made our way to Magalia. I was approached by a fire captain, or excuse me, a battalion chief, that drove to me and stated that she had multiple people hunkered down at a church and she needed to get somebody over there to get them out. And her words to me was, "It's consumed by fire. It's surrounded. Would you be willing to drive in there?" Absolutely. So I drove into this area, opened the doors. These people loaded on the bus, and we went as fast as we could out of there to get them back down to the staging point for where we were taking people on the buses. So we made a couple of trips, loaded the buses, brought them back down to the staging point, got them loaded onto the long buses, and got everybody that we could find, the civilians we could find, sheltering in place out of the fire. So there was one instance where I loaded my bus and we were on our way back down to Paradise, and we had to drive through down Clark Road, and we had to go through an active burning area that was still very extreme. And the bus began to feel like an oven. It got very hot inside. And the best I could tell the people on board was to please trust me. The bus will hold us. We will get through. I will make a way if we have to, but to please trust me. And we came to a point where we were in the hottest part, I remember, of that particular area, and a lady looks out the window and she starts screaming and yelling and cussing, just totally chaotic, and it was her home burning that she seen out the window, and she wanted to get out of the bus to go to her home, and we had to assure her that she couldn't do that. And we tried to get out of that area as fast as we could, as best as we could, so that she didn't have to continue to witness her own house burning.
How many people did you have with you in the bus?
My bus held 25 people, and we filled it up, I think, 3 times fully to move people. And then going out randomly to areas, I would have anywhere from 2 people to 10 people at a time to bring them back to the staging point.
So you just kept taking the bus back into the fire?
Yes. My day from the fire ended November 9th, probably about noon.
Back at Feather River Hospital, all of the patients are now gone. All of the employees have left also. But the firefighters remain to fight the battle at Feather River Hospital. Here, they are determined to make their stand and win the battle.
They were fighting the fire at Feather River Hospital, trying to save the hospital, which we did for the most part. My job assignment was to basically show up and fill the cylinders, which we filled about 60 cylinders to keep the firefighters going. At one point, I felt like my assignment was not that significant in the scope of what was going on. Later, I talked to one of the firefighters that were working on the hospital, and he made it very clear that if it wasn't for us showing up with that support vehicle, they would not have saved the hospital. They would have had to stop working on it. So it actually was a significant part.
We got assigned with Water Tender 45 to Steve to head over to the hospital since the water supply was out. So making it up Pence Road was what pictures it sticks out in my mind is seeing coming up, making a turn past Lime Saddle, and just seeing the wall of smoke. And it was literally, we were getting ready to drive into hell. went through the smoke, and everything was on fire. It was so surreal. Power lines falling down on us multiple times. Made it to the hospital, got tied in, and started flowing water and assisting the engine companies that were there, the career guys. If I remember, Chico Fire was there, and Station Engine 45 was there, and a few other engines.
Went to another staging area for about a half an hour and got dispatched to Feather River Hospital. That the hydrant system had gone down, so myself and Water Tender 42 headed up Pence Road, and kind of lost the track of time, but even going up Pence Road, and I think this was probably around noon, a lot of houses had already burned. The fire moved so rapidly, and going up Pence, we had trouble getting up because of the power lines, the phone lines down, trees, and it was just really, really dark to see anything, and spent probably the next 20 hours at Feather River Hospital trying to protect the main portion of the hospital by providing water to the fire engines.
Can you basically tell me how you saved the hospital?
Well, it was a coordinated effort. There was multiple parts of the hospital that started getting impacted yesterday. The cancer center had fire in it, as well as the medical services building here behind us. We basically got into the attic. Embers got into the gutters, got up underneath the tar paper, and got into the attic. By the time engine companies got here, with the wind that was coming out of the canyon, it basically was like a blowtorch pushing it through the attic. So we sent crews, engine companies to the roof. You can see some of the holes we were successful in putting in. They're not picture perfect, but we did what we could with what we had. So we were able to get holes on the roof, get engine companies in from the bottom, and really just kind of hold that thing. We had to let this part of the building go to save the main ER and the whole main facility. So that was our game plan from the start.
Is the inside of the hospital intact? Is everything okay in there?
Parts, we got a lot of smoke damage. Some areas that are closer to here. The main hospital is intact, yes. The cancer center has some damage. It had an attic fire as well, but the crews went in and did a good job of knocking it down and saving that. There's a lot of rebuilding to do. It's not like they're going to turn the lights on tomorrow, but the structure itself is here. The main facility is here. The birthing center is here, where my son was born.
Wow.
And I have friends who go to the cancer center, so we did our best. So we're just trying to finish this off here.
There's one more story about Bobby O'Reilly that I just have to tell, and after you hear it, I'm sure you'll know why.
I had gone off shift. It was my time to go home for my off period. And I took another relief operator with me that needed transportation down the hill. And we stopped at my mom's house to see if it was still standing. And it was not. And I remember pulling up to the house. First, I remember talking to my mom about the house and if it had burned, with rushing everybody out of the house and making sure they were on the road to get out of the fire's path. My mom then realized that she forgot her mom's ashes in the urn in the fire, or in the house. And knowing that if the house was gone, there was no way anything would have stood, I tried to just reassure my mom that there was a possibility the ashes could still be there. I tried to give her false hope, just to try to make her feel better. So when I stopped at the house to make sure, or to see if the house was still standing, and realizing that it had been burned, coming up to the house, the only thing standing was the fireplace. And Grandma's urn was on the fireplace, on the mantle. And I remember the closer I got, the more you can see the outline of an urn on the mantle. And so I got to the house and realized that the urn was there. I remember thinking previously that the mantle had never been so high. I'd never had to reach that high to reach the fireplace or the mantle. And then it came to realization that the floor around the fireplace was gone. So I climbed up on the fireplace, had to stabilize myself as the bricks were falling apart. And as I touched the urn, it was cracking in my hands. And there was pieces of ceiling and pieces of burned debris all around it, piled. And this was the only item still in one piece within the whole house that burned completely. I did my best to handle it very gently, got it back to the car, wrapped it up in a sweater, and took it to my mom.
How'd she receive that?
She was lost for words. She had already lost her mom once. She was losing her mom again. And she didn't even need to really say anything, because the gratitude that she showed and the hurt and the relief all mixed together, it was something. It gave her the hope, the confidence after losing everything, family heirlooms, collectibles, everything that she's worked so hard for as a single parent, all of her children's lives, everything lost. And that was a real downer for her prior to me bringing the urn. And she's always taught me that everything will be all right. You just have to move on. And when I brought her that urn, her demeanor changed, her character changed, and she now is able to move on. She now is higher spirited. She's higher spirited. She's able to move past this and rebuild her life, and she has the confidence back.
It would be impossible to address the saving of lives during the campfire without discussing the rescue of the many animals that were stranded and suffering in the fire. Disaster groups such as North Valley Animal Disaster went in and took care of the animals.
I primarily work on the evacuation team. We are trained to work behind the fire lines, certified by the fire marshal. We go to individual homes by request of the owner to check on their animals or to evacuate their animals. One of the wonderful stories that really touches my heart is we found a house standing and not burned, and we called the owner to see where his animals would be, inside or out, if there was a hide-a-key or something. And he said, "Is my house still standing?" And I said, "Yes, it is." And he broke down and cried. And his cat came around after we left food out, and I took a picture of the animal, sent it to him, and I asked him, "Is this your cat?" And he broke down and cried again. "Yes, that is my cat." So it's touching that it's a wonderful feeling to reunite people with their animals, especially at the shelter, but even out in the field. It's a great way to touch people's lives, that they know that their beloved animals are safe and sound, and we're feeding them and taking care of them until they can go home.
While the flames of the campfire were still burning, thousands of rescue workers flooded Butte County from all over the country. Firefighters, police, search and rescue personnel came to our rescue at a time of desperate need. They came bringing needed supplies, food, water, gift cards. But most of all, they came bringing their sympathy and their open hearts. searching for our loved ones on our behalf, doing a work that many of them never even imagined they'd be called to do. To all of you, on behalf of our Butte County, of our families, our churches, our clubs, our individuals, we salute you.
We're going to be all right. God's going to see us through it. And I know He's going to see our church family through this, and I know He's going to see the community from Paradise through this. There'll be hard times. But He's there, and He'll give us strength to walk through them. Like He did the flames, helped us go through the flames. He'll help us go through the ashes and find a new life. Won't be the same. Maybe that's part of the adventure of wondering, looking for how is God going to make the new life a good life with Him.
So the beauty shows up in God even through the ashes.
On November the 8th, we here in Butte County fell together. But by God's grace, we also together will rise stronger than we were before.
I don't understand it. If I'm in your hands of grace, how could this happen? How could I be in this place? But here in the darkness, here in the fire and rain, covered in these ashes, I will say, I choose, I choose, I choose to trust you. I choose to let go, fall into your arms of grace. I know you will catch me, though I can't see your face. Here in the rubble, here I will lift my hands, and this is where my faith will make it stand. I choose, I choose, I choose to trust you. Find the strength faithful.